And now I'm at this place where like my inner state is really solid and it's going to stay that way. Negative things will happen and it will affect me, but it doesn't change my set point.
Like certainty is, I think, the measure of a grounded nervous system and what people are really searching for. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and I am so excited for today's episode because I have been trying so hard to align my schedule with this woman who is our guest today because I've known her for 25 years. She is an amazing Pilates yoga teacher. You probably know her from Peloton yoga, from MTV yoga. She is my friend. She was my first ever yoga teacher in 1999 when I walked into Crunch Gym as a freshman in college at NYU. It is the one and only Kristin McGee, and I am so happy that she is here chatting with us today. And I can't wait to get into it. So we're going to get into it right now. Hi, Kristin. I'm so excited. Kristin McGee is here, everyone, all my listeners. I'm so excited to have her. Kristin and I have known each other for such a long time. I feel like she and I met in 1999.
Wow. Can you believe that?
Yes. So she and I met in 1999 when you were teaching yoga in the Village at Crunch Gym.
Yes.
You were doing yoga with MTV at the time, right?
Yeah, I did that a few years later in 2003, but yes.
Okay. So I met Kristin. I was a freshman in college at NYU. And I know you have so many things going on. So I'm actually going to have you just share more about that. But I'm just going to share about how I know you because I know a lot of people probably know you from Peloton. They probably know you from so many other amazing, amazing places because you are just such a OG and trailblazer in the wellness scene. I'm sure that so many of the listeners that listen to my podcast are going to recognize you and are going to be so excited to hear from you. And I know that you and I have been knowing each other for so long. Like I said, you were the first yoga class I ever took in my life at Crunch Gym.
Cool.
Yeah. And then went on, I know you taught me private classes. We've been supportive and you were such a big supporter of my journey opening my own yoga studio in 2007. And you were always such a big supporter of everything that I was doing. And you were also such an inspiration as a woman. And that's really why I wanted you to come on today, because I don't know if you know this, but when I was in my early 20s and you were teaching me private classes in my apartment on the Upper West Side, you shared so much about your journey to self-acceptance. And I've been, knowing you and following you. And I just know you're such an amazing ambassador for truth and self-acceptance and just aging gracefully and staying true to who you are. That's such a big tenet of my platform, which is so much about, women empowerment and just accepting yourself, accepting your body, but also really wanting to accept the part of you that might want to look better, maybe lose weight, maybe have a toned body, especially this day and age. How do you reconcile all the different narratives that are in the world that are like, if you want to lose weight or have a certain body composition, you're in diet culture. And if you want to actually look more youthful and you're going to take steps to do that, you're not self-abandoning. But how do you also then have that sense of self-acceptance at the same time and make it all okay? And I feel like you're such an amazing person to chat with about that. And so I'm so happy to have you and see you. And thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And a couple things came up when you were talking about that. First of all, I just love our history and the fact that we've stayed connected all these years. And I'm so proud to always see everything you're doing. It's so amazing. And I think the one thing that was really hitting home when you were talking about being able to accept ourselves in the full, like fully accept all of ourselves, flaws, imperfections, but also the amazing things that we are and that we do. But then also balance that with like the outside external things that we also can, want to enhance or change possibly. But I think as long as we always come from that first place of inner love and acceptance and self-compassion, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I'm going to put on some makeup to enhance my eyebrows, or I'm going to get my hair colored, or I want to, for some women, oh, I want to put a little bit of Botox in my forehead. I think like taking the shame away from whatever it is that you want to do that makes you feel better in your skin, if it comes from this place of self-love and acceptance first, if it's trying to create this false sense of self-love, like I'm only going to love myself if my forehead is smooth or if I am toned. It's kind of like separating those two things, because it's the same thing, I think, as even like drinking alcohol, for instance. I don't drink much at all anymore just because I notice how I feel the next day isn't great. But if I'm going to have a glass of wine, it's because I choose it. It feels good. It's a great occasion. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying this glass of red wine, as opposed to having a glass of wine to numb out or erase what's bothering me, or, drown my feelings, that kind of thing. So I think that's where we come from, this place of, once you have this great acceptance for yourself and you love yourself fully, and you can know that you're flawed as well, and there's going to be things that you're always going to be like, oh gosh, I wish I had this or that. Then you can also pick apart the pieces that you're like, I really do want to have that tummy tuck. Like I had a friend who has twins like myself, and she finally just got to this point where she was like, I'm in such good shape. I work out every day. My twins are 12 now, and I'm just going to bite the bullet and do it. And it's a big undertaking, and it's a lot of going inward and deciding, like, is this, am I doing this because it's also something I've been thinking about for a long time and I finally just want to do this? Or is it something that it's like, oh, I keep chasing the next thing that's going to change my external appearance to make me think that I'm feeling better?
100%. And I think we aligned so much on that. And so much of what I think is the struggle is being empowered in your choices, and being able to, like, that's the real work, I think, is to feel grounded and empowered in your decisions, and know that it's not coming from, and that you're not fearful that your decision is going to have a consequence that you're not in control of. Right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, like similar to what you're saying. And that means that you have to have so much presence and attention to your day-to-day life to know, like you said, I'm not going to have this glass of wine because I know it makes me feel bad. But if I do have it, you're not all of a sudden going to be like worried about what's happening. You know what's going to happen. Like,
Yes.
Certainty is really, I think, the measure of a grounded nervous system and what people are really searching for. And the certainty comes with yourself. It's not a result necessarily. It's not someone else to be like, this is how it's going to be and this is how you're going to feel. It's like, it's not that black and white, right?
Very true. And it is that getting to know yourself more and more every day. That's why my meditation practice is so important to me. I do a twice daily 20-minute meditation practice, and it is hard, I think, at every stage of our life to still not let the outer voices come in. And so when we can sit silently with ourselves for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is that you can carve out during your day, and listen to your voice from within, then it's easier to navigate those outer voices. Then you can kind of pick or choose, because it's not that outside information is bad. It's great to get that outside information as well as our internal information. But then to be able to decipher it and to have that gut instinct of like, no, that doesn't work for me. Or, oh, this is a good thing. I am going to try this. I might start taking daily creatine and see how it feels. And if it's making a difference, and that's the same thing with even like the supplementation in the wellness world. It's not a replacement for a healthy diet and lifestyle, but there are certain supplements that might enhance a healthy lifestyle. But it's really ultimately up to you to see how they feel for yourself. So it's like, you can't just listen to someone who's like, take this, take that. You're the one who's going to then have to navigate the landscape and be mindful about it and try something and see how it feels and decide whether or not, yes, this is the right supplement for me. Or, you know what, I really don't need that. I don't notice any difference.
100%. I also think we can't be so fearful of feeling negatively. It's like part of learning about yourself and knowing yourself is sometimes negative feedback that informs better choices in the future. And I think people just try to avoid that happening to them. Ultimately, I think one of the biggest things I've learned is And I'm similar to you, as I also have a daily meditation practice. I'm more of like a Theravada meditation person. So it's not like the 20 minutes, like multiple times a day. It's like once a day for like 12 or 24 minutes or something.
Oh,
But it's the
cool.
same thing where you kind of, just observe your breathing and observe the thoughts. And, in some days I just feel really bad, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also like I do it anyway. I don't wait to feel better to do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes it's really important to know how to deal with feeling negatively and still being able to alchemize yourself and evolve yourself and realize that you can still actualize a really good version of yourself and a high version of yourself, even if you're not feeling great. And to your point about even if you're going to be drinking alcohol and you choose it intentionally, you might feel bad afterwards the next day too, but that's not going to necessarily mean you did something bad, right?
Exactly. And it's not tied to your self-worth. It's just,
Right.
oh, it was a decision I made. And it's also a reminder a lot of times when I'm like, oh, I'm in the moment. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll have a glass of wine. And then the next morning I wake up and I do feel a little more groggy or whatever, kind of almost the sugar hangover. And then I'm like, oh, now I remember why I usually choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always just like also a good reminder. It's always like,
Right.
oh, okay, now I remember. Like it actually does feel better if I don't. But there are some moments, like recently I was at this event in Los Angeles and I had a little glass of champagne early in the evening, and the next day I didn't feel anything the next day. So I was like, oh, it's just moment to moment, day by day. And I think what was really important, what you said, is the being able to show up when we're in those moments of not feeling good. And that's really hard. It takes a lot of extra self-love and care and compassion. But when you can show up on those days when you don't feel great, that's where the real transformation takes place. Like there's so many times now that I've launched my own app that I just go into these like negative spirals of like, oh, it's not going to do well, or I'm not going to, why did I do this? Or can I, and it's in those moments, if I continue to keep going, that then there's another breakthrough or there's another transformation. I think that's the main thing is like, if we just keep going and keep showing up for ourselves, there's beauty in that and things are going to shift.
Totally. I'd love to ask you, what do you feel is your biggest transformation? Like I said, I've known you for 25 years now. We met like 25 years ago. And how do you feel like you've changed or you've transformed, or what kind of inner learning, just how have you, because I've observed you, obviously for so long, and I've seen you, and I remember hearing your different experiences, especially with relationships and all these different things. And you are such an inspiration of resilience. And so I'd love to hear what you think your biggest transformations are. And now that you're, aging and getting older, and how you feel about that.
Yes, it's interesting. I think the biggest transformation I feel daily in my life is this baseline sense of peace. Like there's something so interesting that I've gotten to this place in my life where like the parts of my personality haven't disappeared. I can still get anxious. I can still be a perfectionist. I can still worry too much about what other people think of me, but I don't let it carry me away because I've come to find this place of like peace inside of myself. And so I can kind of observe this Kristin that gets, in her way and come back to this feeling of like every day I wake up and I just feel at peace. It's such a hard experience, like emotion to explain, because it's not happy. It's not excitement. Those are emotions that are great when they come along. And I get that when I see my boys or when we're doing something exciting, like the trip I just went on, things like that. But I think in the past, I would allow certain things to actually really affect my inner state. And now I'm at this place where like my inner state is really solid and it's going to stay that way. And negative things will happen and it will affect me, but it doesn't change my set point, if that makes any sense. And
Yeah.
it doesn't wreck me to the point where I get too down or stay in that dark place for too long. Because there are times in my life, like I'm not going to lie, where I have struggled with some depression and feeling really down. And it's hard. It's like you have to pull yourself up out of that. And it's interesting to me now that I just don't have this. I definitely feel like I'm never going to slip into that kind of dark cloud in that way or get too anxious or overwhelmed by the future. I just have this kind of steadiness. Whatever comes my way, I can deal with it. I think that's what really has changed. I think when we're younger, maybe not when we're younger, but just in general, if we don't have that inner state of peace, we can't cope with the things that come our way. We get too worried about them. And instead it's like, okay, I know that whatever comes my way, I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to make it through.
When I listen to you, I hear so much resilience and contentment and equanimity, I think, which is so important for the lack of ups and downs. And I totally empathize and can relate to what you're saying, because I too had so many ups and downs and definitely feel like I still have those, but getting back to center takes a lot less time.
Yes.
And I realize also that balance isn't something that I search to achieve. It's something that I feel really confident that I can return to faster than I used to. I used to chase external things to get me back to balance, and now it's much more internal. And so for you, what do you think has helped you the most? You've built a good life. From the outside, it looks like you have it all together. You eat clean, you work hard, you take care of everyone. But there's this one area that still feels impossible to master, and that is food. You can eat perfectly all day and still end up in the kitchen at night wondering why you keep doing this. You promise yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, and I know you mean it every single time. But the cycle, it always finds its way back, especially when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're just tired of being the one that's holding it all together. And I get it because I lived that way for years. And what I learned is this: the problem, it was never about food. It was the pressure underneath it, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the part of me that never felt safe and secure to just be me. And that's why I created the sober eating sequence. It's a proven 3-phase method that rewires the emotional patterns and the belief systems driving overeating, so you can relax, trust yourself around food, and release weight completely naturally, without force and without obsession. Because when your body feels secure, it lets go. The cravings quiet, the self-punishment, it softens, and food, it stops being the thing that you have to fix. This is not another plan. This isn't another rule book. It's a revolutionary transformation for your nervous system, for your body, and for your identity. So join the sober eating movement today.
Well said, that internal balance. And even to the point where, I think my crutch maybe, which also became my saving grace, but was exercise. I would definitely go to the gym a lot. And it was always like, I'm just going to do this cardio, or I'm just going to do this, or I'm just going to the yoga was so great because it was helping me so much. But I'm at this place now where I internally wake up and I do it because it's this intrinsic thing that makes me feel so good for no other reason than that. I'm not doing it because I'm going to have the best pose, or I'm going to look good, or I'm going to, it's only because of the way it actually sets the stage for my life and for my well-being. And I was just in Chicago, and I flew in, or I woke up really early and I flew in, and I was kind of like you were saying about feeling bad. I was like, my back was kind of achy. I was really just groggy and tired and ugh. And then I walked over to the gym, and I was starving, but I had to wait until dinner time. And I walked over to this gym, and I just felt what my body needed. I went to the foam roller. I laid on the foam roller for a little bit, kind of worked myself out, did a little bit of upper body weights, and went back. And I felt great. And then I had a snack too, because I'm like, I'm not going to show up starving to dinner. That's stupid. Eat if you're hungry, right? Back in the day, I might have been like, oh, I can't. I'm like, no, just eat something, get a yogurt. And so I did. And I think in the past, it would have been the opposite, where my mind would have been telling my body what it should do. And instead my body was informing my mind. And it was just very intuitive. And then the next day I woke up and I did yoga in my hotel room on a carpeted floor. I didn't even have a yoga mat. But again, it was about waking up and listening to my body. And there were still moments where I didn't feel great because every time you travel, things get so disrupted. But it was like, oh, now I know, like, this is who I am and this is me. And it's just a part of my life now.
100%. Totally. I remember when I first met you and I started to practice yoga, it was because I wanted to be toned. Like it was fully part of the workout. I would do like an hour on the recumbent bike. Then I would go to like your 9:30 class and on Fridays. I remember.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that too.
Your 9:30 class on Fridays. And then I would do the bike again.
Wow.
And the yoga was it was more about calorie burning and tracking the exercise. And, the funny thing is one of the teachings that I remember from those early days was teachers would always say, the yoga works on you. Even if you just show up, you don't even realize it.
Yes.
And it did, and now I feel the same way as you. Like I practice yoga and I meditate every day, mainly because of just how it makes me feel chemically in my body afterwards. Like some days I show up and, I go up into, a forearm stand and it's great. Other days I'm falling out of it and it doesn't really matter either way how that goes. I still sort of feel the same, like great afterwards, because it doesn't really like the minutia in the middle doesn't matter as much as just the breathing part and getting to the other side. And so I totally, completely relate. And it's such a great feeling to know that you're not attached to like the posture or the performance of it all, but you are attached to the process of it. And the process is something that you always have control over. And the process is something that doesn't have to be dictated by any performance outcome or your mood or anything like that. And like you said, the hardest part is doing it anyway. What I used to do is I used to kind of go hard, even if I felt that heavy energy and that like kind of negative. And I would sometimes not do the workout that was probably more restorative or more appropriate because it was more about burning calories or the whole thing. But now it's about getting to an emotional state and the luxury and the beauty of being adaptive to your moment-to-moment experience because of that connection to yourself. And, I think that that's the freedom, right? Like that's how I feel.
And strength can be in that softness as well. Like you were saying, being soft with yourself to say, oh, I'm not going to push it today because it just doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because that was the Wednesday I flew and I didn't really feel like pushing it. And I maybe did like 15, 20 minutes of just kind of crazy mobility and a little bit of upper body. Next day I did some yoga. Today I'm feeling like super strong. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's do some like heavier lower body weights. And then I'll do my yoga practice. So it's interesting how if you really give your body that chance and you listen to it and feed it intuitively what it needs, it's like you're going to be stronger in the long run because it's this internal strength that you're building along with the external strength.
Completely. That is completely exactly it. And so I want to ask you, so can you give me and us a little bit of a trajectory? You just launched your own app, so I'd love to hear about this. I'm sure a lot of the app has to do with some of this stuff, teaching, kind of whether it's an outcome of it or just the process of it. So I'd love to hear if you want to share a little bit of your journey to get here. That would be so great. However you want to.
Yeah. How you mentioned the MTV yoga, I feel like it put my name on the map in the fitness world because I was a theater major at NYU and I was pursuing my acting career and teaching on the side to support it. And then I was discovered by this MTV producer who asked me to do the first MTV yoga series. And so after shooting 4 DVDs for MTV, I started to follow more this path of like, oh, I can do fitness workouts and production, which I absolutely love. It combines the two. Then I did my own DVDs and then I worked for Health Magazine and worked on HSN for years selling the Pilates Power Gym and did a DVD with Bethany Frankel and some Pilates DVDs for Acacia. And then finally, in 2015, I did an ad campaign with Robin Arzon. And in 2018, I reached out to her and asked if Peloton wanted to start doing yoga. And she said, okay, come in on the audition. And then we launched Peloton Yoga. So again, it was marrying these things that I absolutely love, being on camera, production, and connecting with people and teaching, because I just absolutely love to teach more than anything. So, and in 2024, after my divorce and everything, it was just, I was this kind of crossroad of like, do I stay with Peloton or do I pivot and do something on my own so that I have the flexibility with my boys to do whatever it is that I need to? And so I made this really hard decision to leave Peloton because I loved it so much, loved my colleagues, loved the work. It was like my favorite type of work. I would have showed up every single day on camera for them. But that's what I'm kind of doing now, is just showing up every day and teaching on camera. But I have now my own community that I'm building, and it's a lot more, I would say, intimate, because now I can actually communicate with them. We have this great like little chat where everyone talks and has ideas and suggestions, and I make community classes for people. So if someone says, my wrists are hurting, I can only do standing postures, will you create a flow for me? I will. And then I'm like, oh, here's, so-and-so's flow. And I explain in the description what it's all about. But it actually is great for many people who are like, oh, I don't want to weight bear today on my wrist. So that's really fun element. And the 3 pillars are the flow, the sculpt, and the connect, because the yoga flow and the mobility will always be what I love so much. And I think it's so important to create that space and openness in our bodies and our minds. And the sculpt is very important. It's important to have that muscle mass, especially as we get older. I'm 52 years old now. So I want women to know that it's important to maintain muscle. It's good for your bone mineral density. There's really a lot of benefits to strength. But when you combine the mobility and the strength, especially, those two go hand in hand, and you can get stronger and more flexible together. And then the connection is really that mind-body connection through meditation, and also through Pilates. I find that Pilates is like this component that ties it all in, because it's so much about your core and what we were talking about, listening to our core in a physical sense, but also in an emotional state. Like our core really connects us to everything. So we have to remind ourselves to come back to center time and time again. So those are the 3 pillars of the app. And it's really exciting because, again, now I have this space and place where Peloton is corporate. So you have to also wait for, they have a lot of moving pieces and a lot of instructors. And so now I don't have to really wait to produce content, to create what I want to offer what I have. It's a lot more risk, but it's a lot more reward, because now I can run my own business and see how it goes. So that's really exciting. I wrote a book, Somatic Exercises for Dummies, for the Dummies collection through Wiley. And it was a lot what we were talking about, this whole idea of soma being of the body, working in for those feelings, less about the extrinsic outcome, and how the path is the process. And so we're always in this state of process and learning and growth. And I just talk about a lot of different forms of somatic exercises throughout and give examples. And then I'm leading retreats. So I love doing the retreats at Canyon Ranch. You should do one at Canyon Ranch. I should introduce you to them.
Yeah, I would love to, actually. I've been thinking about it. Yeah. And even just in general, I would love to just chat about potential just collabs.
That'd be so much fun to do this.
Great.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. I think.
And then I have another book coming out in February, and it's the Treat Yourself philosophy. And it's, again, kind of coming back to what we were talking about, this truly realizing everything is already there. That's the acronym for the treat. So it's already inside of us, and we just have to remind ourselves to treat ourselves really well on a day-to-day basis, and discovering new treats, right? You're never too old. It's never too late to kind of figure out what floats your boat. And I think yoga is very good about helping us, be at the captain of our own ship, listen to what we want. What floats my boat? What is it that's going to bring me joy? And so experimenting with different treats like every single day, and creating a treat sheet, and making them big, making them small, thinking about other aspects of your life. Because sometimes you just get only into like the body, the food, but there's so many other things, that we can think about. So yeah.
Oh, that's so great. I didn't know that you were doing that. That's so fun. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, because I feel like as I've gotten older, just learning how to accept and just generate joy has been, and just realizing how many barriers women have to joy, I think is so huge. And so much of what I've seen in the work I do is really just supporting men and women, honestly. It's not just women, though I think, maybe you and I both work more with women than with men potentially. Yes. But I do think men too, is just to, we're in such a survival culture, I think. And I think it's so much about, it's always like pushing and surviving. And I do think people are afraid of goodness. It's like the hypervigilance. And so I love your book, because I think that's so amazing. And I'm like, people don't need to be afraid of feeling good, of pleasure, of treats, just like you just said, Yes.
I just read this article, a Substack article from Liz Foster. She used to be the head editor at Women's Health.
Yeah, so I'm actually in touch. Yeah, so yeah.
We'll just interview her, and if not, I'll connect you guys again.
I'm already connected. I'm pretty sure that I already submitted stuff to her, and that we're
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited about that. And small world.
Yes, but feel free to mention me to her so that she actually knows.
Connected and that. Yeah. Okay, great.
That'd be so great.
You have this amazing article with this woman. I think her name is Emily, who is like a sex therapist, but she was talking about, because Liz was talking about like the 5 pillars or the 5 things that we need in our life. And then she's like, oh, but there's a 6th, and that's pleasure. And that's what the full article was about, and about this woman talking about pleasure and to not be afraid to give ourselves pleasure and all of these things. And I was like, wow, that's so interesting and true. And she's coming from this like sexual point of view, but also that in that respect, like for women not to be afraid to give themselves pleasure, So it's like, you should read that Substack. It's really good.
I would love to. That Substack has such great articles sometimes.
Yes.
I think some people are really posting such great content over there. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really good. How are you feeling being a business owner?
It's cool. It's fun. It's, there's also a lot of learning curves for me, because again, I feel like sometimes I'm good at showing up. I love to teach. I don't mind being on camera, but I'm now in charge of headset, audio, microphones, camera angles, lighting, customer service, marketing. There's like so many components that go into it, and it can become very overwhelming if I let it. But if I also remind myself, to your point, that it's a process, it's a path, it doesn't have to be perfect all at once. I'm not going to be for everyone. People might complain and not want to be there, and that's fine. Like, I have to just stay my course and do what I like to do. There are moments when you want to pivot and go like, how can I please that person? And what can I do different? And instead you're like, I'm just going to do what I feel is what serves me, right? Because it's always made me feel so good, and hopefully it will make others feel good.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like the biggest teacher, honestly, I find. So many times a day, I'll be like, okay, I'm just doing the best I can. Yes. And sometimes when people get upset, like, it does hurt my feelings, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I could have a hurt feeling, and I could still continue on. But running your own business, I feel like, is such a different animal.
Really?
But I'm so happy for you. I feel like it's a great... Yeah, it's so perfect that you have your own platform, and because you're so multidimensional and you have so much to offer. And I always think of you as like my first, it's like I wouldn't be where I am today without having met you, I don't think, because you were really my first foray like into yoga. And so I'm just so happy that we're able to connect today. And I'm just so excited that I'm able to kind of just give back that appreciation to you in this way. So
you're gonna make me cry now. Seriously. Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Full circle. Yeah. And that's important for us to remember, for just with so many people in our lives and the people that come and go, but to just keep spreading the light, keep sharing the light, keep reminding others of their light. And it's really awesome. So I'm so happy you told me. Thank you.
I'm so happy.
I feel bad, like with all the things I juggled,
No, I knew. I was like, oh my God, she's so busy. She's always traveling. And and it's always, when you feel like you have a connection with someone for such a long time, it'll always work out. And I'm just so happy. Yeah, always in the right time. And so before we wrap, is there anything that you want to share with anybody listening? And you talked about your app, or can we find you, or can we?
You can find me at KristinMcGee.com. And on there, you'll find a link to the retreats, a link to the app. There's a 7-day free trial. If we can talk offline as well, if you want me to give your listeners like a month trial, totally fine. That's where you can find my Instagram. It's also just Kristin McGee on social, and my Substack. You can also, so all of those links through my website, you can just get to any of those.
Nice. How is it with the Substack? Are you enjoying
It's nice. It? It's another thing that's kind of therapeutic, because it's good for me to get my thoughts out in writing. And it was the first thing I started after I left Peloton, mainly because I was under a non-compete and I couldn't share videos. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll share my writing and see what happens. And it just kind of grew from there. So now it's nice too, because Substack has free, and then it also has paid, but the paid there is very inexpensive. It's like $8 a month. And I'm able to still do a monthly yoga Zoom class with my students there, or to do little things with them. And like the app is a little bit more expensive, but that's where people get the collection to over 300 classes, and they can, also do lives with me and the Zooms there as well. But I like to have these price points where it might be more accessible to some people. And then also just the free, anyone can go there and read. And so it's really nice.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. I feel the same way about the podcast. I feel like it's nice for people to be able to long form, be able to hear what you have to say and give good value. And yeah, I think Substack is is a really interesting platform. I've been exploring it. So.
Oh, good. Because if you join there as well and you can add all of your podcasts to Substack as well. They have a whole podcast section, which is really cool.
Oh, cool. Good to know.
I know Katie Couric does that. She has like all her written stuff, but then she has all her podcast interviews. So it's really awesome. And so does Deanne Harris. So yeah, it's fun.
Huh. Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just so happy to have you. And
we'll stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, that is all for today's episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. Thank you so much for listening to me and Kristin. And don't forget that in the show notes, if you want to subscribe to her app, she is offering a free month. You can get that discount code in the show notes. And as always, if you'd like to be entered in to win the monthly giveaway, which is a one-on-one session, private session with me, all you have to do is go to Apple, leave us a rating, leave us a review, send that screenshot into podcast@bewellbyak.com, or you can DM us at bewellbyak.com a screenshot of that review, and you'll be entered in to win a free one-on-one session with me. And of course, you can follow me at bewellbyak.com and find all of the different ways we can work together at www.bewellbyak.com. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.